Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today, we're talking about what is, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, battleships for the current meta. And that is, of course, the one, the only, the Tier 10 Soviet Special Resource, whatever you want to call it, battleship, the Slava. Now, the Slava is a ship that we haven't talked about in some time. The last time I did a standalone video on the Slava was over a year ago. And she is quite the ship with quite the history and game. Of course, she entered into testing as the Pobeda. That name, of course, would later go to the Soviet aircraft carrier, the Pobeda. But the Pobeda, if you go back and look at the footage of that ship during testing, which is of course the old Slava, oh boy, that was quite the battleship back in the day. Man, that ship could dunk on anything at range. It was clapping. Battleships from full health to half health back in the day. It was quite the show with the Pobeda. Now, of course, a lot has changed since then, and the Slava did carry for some time that same reputation that the Pobeda had, but it's a much different ship if you go look back at some old Pobeda gameplay versus the Slava. So, what is the Slava? So, the Slava is the Kremlin, but its armor has been exceptionally shaved off. Its bow and stern can be overmatched by pretty much every battleship at tier 10, with the exception of, ships like the Mecklenburg with like the battle cruiser-ish small battleship caliber guns. She can be overmatched by, I believe, 15-inch and above. So again, like even like the Siegfried and the Soviet Siegfried can overpin her bow and stern, but in exchange for having barely any armor and a lower HP pool, 10,000 less HP than the Kremlin, and one less heal on top of that, she has some amazing 16-inch guns. She has 9 16-inch guns that have essentially, again, this is kind of like a TLDR description of the way it works, the reverse of the Soviet gimmick, where the further out the target is, the better dispersion you get. The closer the target is, the worse dispersion you get. Which means that this ship is like the ideal sniping ship on that alone. So she also has a pretty good base maximum gun range of 24.6 kilometers. You can swap that for a longer range that gets out to around 27 kilometers with the range mod if you want to take that. I myself take the reload mod because another trade-off for that accuracy is the reload time. You have a 33-second base reload time on 9 16-inch guns at tier 10, so I'd take the reload, and from my experience at least, it works out just fine. Now, it's not just the dispersion of these guns that is excellent, it's the AP. Now, this is Soviet bias AP, so it's extra spicy, boys. These 16-inch shells, when they bite into the target, they really hit like 18-inch shells, if not 20-inch shells, especially if the Slava catches your broadside. So what's special about these shells? Well, there's a lot of hubbubaloo and a lot of technical terms, but again, the TLDR description is that they have Soviet shell ballistics, which means that they exit the barrels at a blazing hot speed of 870 meters a second. And the way that the Soviet shells, the way that the physics around them work is that they glide through the air much faster. They maintain that speed much better. They're kind of like the opposite of the American battleship shells, where if you fire the American battleship guns, the AP hangs in the air for forever because they have horrible air drag coefficients. The Soviet shells do not, so they just zip on through the air and get to where they're going. And they maintain their speed much better to the target. And because of that, they pin very, very, very well. So that means that these 16-inch guns can absolutely just rip through battleship armor at range. And of course, anything that's slightly well armored is going to have a bad day with the Slava. So, yeah, it's excellent when you catch those ships that aren't paying attention to their mini map or to you, and you just absolutely clap them for a third of their HP. You're probably going to citadel them for most of their HP. Hell, there's points in this game where I'm citadeling the Yami from 20, 18, 19 kilometers. That just doesn't happen normally because the Yamato Citadel is, the way it's configured, it's very good at deflecting AP shots from range, but the Slava simply just doesn't care about it. It just zips on right through it. So she's a great sniper in today's World of Warships. Now, yes, her survivability has been, of course, shaved off for the sniping ability, but if you're sniping, you're not really going to be hit that much. Now, of course, too, I've also found that even with this decreased armor, she's still not terrible if you need to tank. Obviously, under sustained fire, you're going to go down very fast. But if you have to push in, like in the match watching the background with the convoys, I had to escort the convoy ships to the end because it didn't look like it was going to be, you know, all cut and dry by the point that the convoy ships got to where I was hanging out at on the map. So I went in with them, and yeah, I took a lot of hits, and the Slava, you know, didn't take it as well as other battleships, but I mean, it still took it. And even with the decreased accuracy at closer range, the guns are still pretty darn accurate, and they're still, you know, the same Soviet 16-inch shells at 20 kilometers as they are at 5 kilometers, and they work just fine at those 5 kilometers as well. So when you need to do medium to close range stuff, you can still do it. And since so many games now are at longer ranges, I mean, yeah, Slava, if you have her, is an excellent one to take out in today's World of Warships. Add on top of that, too, Slava still has Kremlin's original AA suite. What do I mean by that? Glad you asked. So Kremlin, when she was released, had really freaking good AA. We're talking about up there rivaling the likes of the best AA ships at Tier 10. Now, Wargaming, for whatever reason, didn't like this. And this was legitimately the only thing that they nerfed about the Kremlin for a solid year. They just kept cutting your AA's health. To where now, the Kremlin does still have really freaking good AA. Before you shoot at it with anything that has HE, and then half of her mounts are dead by the second salvo. The Slava's AA, it's the same, and it's intact, has its full health, which means that she's still a really good AA ship. So not only do you have a ship that is excellent at medium to long range, but it still has good AA, like genuinely good AA by today's standards. So if you don't like CVs, and you're never able to get into close-in engagements in your matches, and you're finding that most of your matches are just snipe fest, yeah, Slava's the one to go to, in my opinion. Now, the other issue with her is that she is a Research Bureau ship. So this means that, first off, you have to get 5 Tier 10 somehow. If you buy 5 Tier 10 premium ships with coal or whatever, or if you have that much money on you, you can unlock it. But typically, you're going to have to grind out 5 lines up to Tier 10. And then you're going to have to reset a line 5 or 6 times, maybe 7 times, depending upon when you do it. If you do it when the Research Bureau resets, then I think it's only about 5 times. You probably have some Research Bureau points from certain events and such if you've been active in the game. So, yeah, that's a bit of a tall order. And plus, you have to pick between this or the Ohio, because those are the 2 best Research Bureau battleships. Ohio's another excellent ship for today's meta as well. I just think Slava's just better, given that her guns are better at longer range. And once you do that, you can get a Slava. If you're looking for a line to reset, the Japanese gunboat line, the Harugumo, is the best one to do, because it requires the least amount of XP. And every time a Research Bureau ship comes out, my Harugumo gets a little sad, because I gotta reset the line yet again in order to get the new Research Bureau ship. But once you do all that, you can get a Slava. Now, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty fair thing to ask for a ship that's this good. And plus, by the time you grind up 5 Tier 10 lines, you have a pretty solid idea of how the game works by that point. So, yes, Slava, as much as I hate to admit it, is probably one of the best, if not the best, battleship for the current meta. It's just, wow, that I'm saying this because I like brawling, I like close-in engagements, but I mean, again, even some like convoys, Slava's doing really well in today's World of Warships. And if you go back and watch my Slava first impressions video, the first game I had in it, I was playing it like a Kremlin because that's just how the game went. And the ship still did, I think they did like 180,000 damage, 4 kills, something like that. In my first game in the thing, playing it like a Kremlin, it's just crazy how this ship is, it can do things at medium and close range, just like the Kremlin. Not as well as the Kremlin, but it can do them. But yeah, so guys, that's my 2 cents on the Slava. If you have the time to invest into the Research Bureau, it is an amazing ship to pick up. If you're looking for a ship for the current meta, it's definitely it. If you're looking for a good ship overall, not one that's suited for the meta right now, because of course the meta can change and probably will change with time, the Ohio is probably the better choice. But for the current meta at higher tier right now, Slava is most definitely one of the best picks. Again, if not the best pick, you can go with for a tier 10 resource ship, special ship, premium ship, whatever you calls it. So guys, that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Thursday. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 50,000 subs thanks to you guys, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Thursday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.